Welcome to Mount Sinai Future You, a show introducing you to clinicians and researchers who are revolutionizing medicine. Among them, Dr. Dennis Charney, the Dean of the Icahn School of Medicine here at Mount Sinai. He sat down with Dori Kleesis to discuss the future of healthcare.
The Icahn School of Medicine has been called an engine of discovery. How do we foster innovation here at Mount Sinai?
If you're pushing the envelope, you're going to have times when the experiment doesn't work out. The new treatment doesn't work.
So it's okay to fail here?
It's more than okay. Yes, you'll fail some of the time, but then there'll be other times where you make a breakthrough that ultimately can help our patients with the most serious diseases. We've had a lot of breakthroughs over the 50 years of the life of the school. We've discovered different genetic diseases. We have scientists investigating viruses so that we can discover a universal flu vaccine, which is obviously of great need. We have scientists studying neuropsychiatric diseases that have led to new ideas on how to treat Alzheimer's disease and depression. Our scientists have impacted all the major diseases, whether it's cancer, heart disease, neurological and psychiatric diseases, genetic diseases. So it's been a very exciting time.
And when do you think, how much time do we need to totally, eliminate some of those most devastating diseases? Because I've read people say we're hearing that things are changing, we're hearing that medicine is going to be different, but when is that day coming that we're going to finally cure cancer?
In part, it's step by step. Then occasionally a major discovery will happen that incrementally advances the understanding of disease and results in new treatments. An example is AIDS. That when we first discovered the cause of AIDS, that it was a virus, the HIV virus, patients were still dying. But then there were breakthroughs in understanding how the virus works, new treatments were discovered, and now, for the most part, AIDS is not a terminal disease. It's a chronic disease that can be controlled. That's an example of what we're going to see in the future. Disease by disease, we will make advances. But we never know exactly when that's going to occur. But I can guarantee you, step by step, over the next 5 or 10 years, we'll see major advances. So I'm very thankful to the founders that enabled us to get to the point where we are so that we can celebrate a 50th anniversary. And it is our responsibility, the current leadership, the current faculty, the current students, to build on that foundation so that the next 50 years accomplish what they did, our founders, and change the lives of our patients.
We'll have more from Dr. Charney later in the show when he talks about how he applied his own research to a life-changing event. Among the many breakthroughs in medicine, technologies that are making surgery safer. Mount Sinai's Department of Neurosurgery is leading the way.
Okay, so now what we'd like to do is see if we get better visualization by introducing the Kivo so that we can look around this corner. One of the issues has always been, where is the best place to look at the optical information that is provided through the microscope? Should you look through the eyepieces of the microscope, as we've done traditionally, or should that information be gathered by high-resolution video and projected onto a video screen? One of the advantages of projecting it onto a video screen is that you can overlay other additional digital information, such as neuroanatomy, navigation, and other information that may be available from sources that are outside the microscope. The analogy would be something like a heads-up display that aircraft pilots have when they are looking at navigation information at the same time as they're looking through the windscreen. The operating room of the future is going to be one that integrates multiple information streams for the surgeon to use in a way that is non-distracting and can be used in the service of safety for the patient.
I thought it was just simple sinuses. I happened to just go and meet with an ENT doctor. I actually had an MRI done, and that's when they found that I had a tumor. It was a complete shock at the beginning. It wasn't really until the next day I was writing a note to a colleague, and that's when it all hit home, actually writing it down that I needed brain surgery.
The brainstem and the spinal cord needs to be protected. So the way that it's protected in your head.
What matters most to me is making sure that the patients understand their condition, understand the risk factors associated with their surgery and their condition, and what their life is going to be like after. So being able to show a patient exactly where their tumor is, what we're up against getting there, what we're up against in the process of removing it, and having them see that in real live color and seeing why it's so important, they fully understand what's about to happen to them and why certain things may happen afterwards, why they're having headaches for a while, why their memory might be suffering, why they might need radiation after surgery. Not only does it limit, the questions and the concerns that they have here, it makes them feel more comfortable and powerful in their decision.
To be able to sit with them, see what the process is, actually meet the folks that are doing the 3D, that was incredible to me. And actually seeing, okay, they have sort of a very clear roadmap of what they're going to do. It brings up the confidence level on the entire team quite a bit. The nervous factor has sort of really come down. Of course, you're still nervous, still sort of the unknown, but the more you know, the more I found out about it. It wasn't only the technology of it, but you could feel the passion.
Look at you! Wow, you look so great.
Thanks.
This is a rendition of the patient's actual anatomy, what his skull looked like, his vascular anatomy, and what the tumor looks like in relationship to the nerves. This is extremely helpful to make a plan and to anticipate what we're going to see during the surgery.
What we're really good at in this group is that kind of 2D to 3D reconstructions. So taking slice-by-slice data that you might get if you go to get a CT or an MRI scan and turning that into something that can be physically modeled. We're pretty unique in the fact that we're able to leverage the relationship between us and our tools and radiology and other departments and the RPC that's already here at Sinai to do these things on a timescale that really very few other institutions are capable of doing.
Our on-site 3D printing lab that we have that utilizes between 6 and 7 different 3D printers is a pretty great commodity. It provides constant tweaking and constant refinement of the process to make sure that the product that we print at the end matches the patient's data and exactly what the surgeons need.
I think it's very useful for the students and for nurses and other people in the operating room, because it can be somewhat difficult to interpret even these wonderful 3D images, and this is very easy to interpret.
From neurosurgery to neuroscience, one of the greatest challenges facing communities across the country is addiction and how to treat it. Dr. Eric Nestler is the director of the Friedman Brain Institute, where researchers in the lab are working with psychiatrists on the front lines to tackle the disease.
For 3 decades, Dr. Eric Nestler of Mount Sinai has been on a mission to study the human brain, specifically the neurobiology of drug addiction and depression, in hopes of finding effective treatments. Both are among the top 10 causes of disease burden worldwide.
Drug addiction by itself, its estimated costs the United States about $500 billion a year in lost productivity, medical expenses, and so on. So we really need to do better. I think there's always hope, but honestly, it's been much more difficult to crack drug addiction and depression, to understand what is at the heart of these syndromes, and to develop definitive treatments. I think that difficulty reflects the unique complexity of the brain. The brain is just a lot more complicated than we ever thought, and then our ability to use that information to develop better therapeutics.
Why did you decide to study depression and addiction? Are they related?
We in the field at large discovered that at the core of addiction lies abnormalities in what we call brain reward. Reward is when a person feels good, and through evolution one can imagine that an individual's response to rewarding stimuli, food, sex, social interaction, and so on is an extremely powerful series of stimuli that shape every aspect of a person's behavior. Drugs of abuse cause addiction by essentially corrupting or commandeering that reward system, so that in the extreme a drug addict doesn't care about any natural rewards. All they care about is getting the drug of abuse. Depression is also due to an abnormality in brain reward. Why do we study addiction and depression together is because we view them both as being caused by abnormalities in brain reward, with pathologies induced by drugs of abuse or stress in some of the same brain regions. About half of people who are addicted to drugs also get depressed, and a much smaller percentage of people who are depressed get addicted. So people who are drug addicted, the addiction itself can drive an increased vulnerability to depression. And on the other hand, a person who is depressed might seek a drug of abuse in order to help make themselves feel better. So that there could be ways, essentially ways to boost natural reward that we think would be therapeutic for both syndromes.
Is drug abuse a willpower situation, or is addiction a disease?
Yeah, there's a big debate around in society, and this has probably been going on for about 100 or 1,000 years, and that is whether drug addiction is a disease or is it a matter of weak willpower. It's clearly a brain condition. At the core, addiction involves the effects of a physical substance, a certain type of chemical, drug of abuse, on a physical substrate, a vulnerable brain. That's clearly a strict biological process, a disease process. The challenge is that we know that addiction is more than that. It also has social and psychological features. That's why I think we still today have a problem convincing society to treat a person with an addiction the same way we would treat someone with cancer, diabetes, or heart disease. I started my lab 27 years ago, and we thought that the application of molecular biology to the question of how drugs change the brain or how stress changes the brain would lead to new treatments within 5 to 10 years. Here we are 27 years later. We've learned an enormous amount about the brain. We've even learned a lot about addiction and depression, but we have not yet been able to translate that new knowledge into a treatment. So one of the major challenges for us here at Mount Sinai is to do that, is to succeed. And we have some ideas about how we can work with clinicians in unique ways to drive new treatments into the clinic.
One of those new treatments could include using a component of the marijuana plant to tackle the opioid crisis. Mount Sinai researcher Dr. Yasmin Hurd shares her discoveries in the lab.
We have an epidemic in the country. We have more people dying of opioid overdose than even dying of car accidents. And actually more people today in the US are diagnosed with an opioid use disorder than with cancer. Addiction is a chronic relapsing disorder. So craving is a huge part of why people relapse. We have seen that a cannabinoid in the marijuana plant, cannabidiol, helps to reduce drug seeking, drug craving in opioid use disorder. So by decreasing craving, we can reduce the number of people who will overdose, will reduce the number of people who keep taking the drug. So for us, any type of medication that can reduce craving will go very far in treating the opioid epidemic. Scientists and clinicians have been missing from the dialogue that our country has been having the past couple of years about medical marijuana. You need evidence-based information to guide policy and laws being made. And for the first time in our history, we're having the public and politicians decide whether something is medical. Usually that's done after years of research, both on a preclinical and clinical level, where we know the side effects and we can effectively tell patients what to expect in terms of the beneficial effects of drugs and the potential side effects. All drugs have that. So we are saying that something is perfectly fine without the thorough, structured research and clinical trials. And that, to me, is a major problem. So science, we've been a little bit behind, and the federal regulatory barriers that have made it challenging for research to be done with marijuana products is also the catch-22 of it all. But clearly, from a number of different lines of research, there are components of the marijuana plant that has medicinal value, especially as we start to see now in, perhaps for opioid addiction, and we want to be able to move forward with those kinds of studies. I don't think we can say that medical marijuana right now is a treatment for opioid addiction because we still need more studies. Preclinical studies and the very few clinical studies suggest that there is a potential. Evidence-based medicine is essential, but everything looks optimistic that we should at least pursue this line of research. So for us, that's a critical thing, especially as I said, this is an epidemic, and so we have to think differently and outside the box. And given the research results that we've seen, I think it's important for us to try to see whether or not indeed it could be a treatment.
What happens when real life imitates a scientist's research? Dr. Dennis Charney again, this time discussing how he applied his study of resilience to a near-death experience.
Recently, you faced a traumatic experience yourself and was shot by a former employee who was disgruntled. How has that experience changed your life and what you've learned about resilience?
In August of 2016, I was the victim of a crime, a shooting. I was hit with a shotgun by an employee that had been terminated 6 years prior. That was obviously a traumatic experience for me and my family. Luckily, I've been able to recover fully from that experience, but it was close. If the pellets from the shotgun were an inch or two different from where they landed, I could have died. It was obviously a major experience in my life. Here was somebody who studied resilience, and then I was traumatized. And it occurred to me I better walk the walk. My recovery was very public. As dean, there were many faculty and many students that were witnessing my recovery, and it gave me a great deal of support. What occurred were several things in relation to my life. First, I found that what we had learned from studying resilient people actually worked. I was able to use that knowledge in my own recovery.
What did you learn?
I learned that having role models in your life that had gone through something similar gave you a roadmap on how to recover. I learned how important the support of family and friends was to recovery. It was so important to set goals for yourself in your recovery, and also to recognize and acknowledge that you were going to be a trauma victim for the rest of your life, and to incorporate that experience into your life. And I found in many ways it made me a stronger person going forward.
What message do you have to the faculty that supported you so well in this event for you? What message do you have for us for the future of Mount Sinai and the school?
Well, first, I'd like to thank all the students and the faculty for the support and love that they gave me. I found out how much people cared about me and admired my work as a scientist and as a person. And normally you never find that out. Normally that happens in a memoriam after you die. And the one positive experience is that I felt that and experienced that in my recovery. So I have enormous gratitude to all my friends and colleagues and my students at Mount Sinai. My gratitude will extend to the future in terms of how I perform as your dean, how much support I give you so that you can accomplish great things. We can teach you to become wonderful scientists and physicians. My commitment to you is stronger than ever.
We're grateful for his commitment to Mount Sinai and how he continues to inspire clinicians and researchers alike, including one oncologist who is studying how vaccines could target cancer cells and prevent recurrence.
It happened actually 5 years ago, almost to the day. My wife found some lymph on my neck, and they told me that it's a lymphoma.
The most common type of low-grade non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is follicular lymphoma, so it's a pretty common disease. There are more than 100,000 people walking around America with follicular lymphoma. Basically incurable. They're most commonly diagnosed in an advanced stage, stage 3 or stage 4, and we have good therapies for these diseases, meaning that we can put patients into remission with chemotherapy or with some other types of immune therapy, but those remissions don't last as long as we'd like. ultimately those diseases relapse, and ultimately those diseases become refractory. We're not able to treat them with those same therapies anymore. So for all of these low-grade non-Hodgkin's lymphomas that are with most standard therapies considered incurable, we need novel therapies and things that are different than chemotherapy. We say mechanistically distinct. They attack cancer cells in a different way than chemotherapy does. Vaccines were an exciting concept for many years. I mean, vaccines for pathogens, for polio, for hepatitis B, for measles, mumps, rubella, all those things that we are vaccinated against routinely had, I think, by no contest, the greatest medical impact of any therapy developed in the 20th century. So it was hoped or assumed that we could develop cancer vaccines to be similarly effective. We have some new targeted therapies which are promising. Some of those FDA-approved targeted therapies put the disease in remission for about a year on average. So again, if this person is 50 years old when we meet them, they get a few years of remission from the first therapy, a year or two from the next therapy. We still need newer and better therapies. Are well better than the other day.
With the follicular lymphoma, there is one of the ways to treat it, or actually is not to treat it, because it's considered incurable, and as long as people don't have symptoms, many doctors suggest don't do anything, wait. And waiting is a hard part, because you know that cancer is growing and nothing happens. So I was looking actively for clinical trials.
This specific trial is trying to very specifically teach patients' immune systems what their tumor looks like. So when they encounter tumor cells anywhere in the body, they can eliminate them. And the approach that we take is kind of just like a flu vaccine, where you get vaccinated in one site, but your whole body learns how to prevent flu or to eliminate flu if it sees it. We have one site, which is one site of the patient's tumor, where we inject immune stimulants directly into the tumor. And immune cells start to recognize that that tumor is a bad thing. They learn how to recognize those tumor cells specifically, and then those immune cells can travel throughout the body to eliminate tumor cells. And the success has been very exciting. We have patients who are going into partial and complete remissions from immunotherapy for years.
This is technology in medicine which is not available anywhere else. So the only way to get it is to go through clinical trial. One way or another, it is going to help other patients, and going to help to understand why this treatment works, why it doesn't work, how to improve it. Doctor's body trial is another option for patients. So with many other treatments, people can use it once, maybe twice. This one, it doesn't take away anything else. So all the chemo or other options are still available.
We are lucky to have chemotherapy. We have a lot of people who are alive today that would have been dead years ago if it weren't for chemotherapy. But I think we can do better, and it would be great to more specifically be able to get rid of patients' cancer cells without hurting the patients. So I've been attracted to this idea of cancer immunotherapy for a long time, and this particular approach really kind of just led naturally from advances in science. So I think that this is going to have a huge impact on the near-term way that we treat patients with cancer, specifically teach our immune systems how to recognize patients' tumors and eliminate them.
Doctors are experts in their respective fields, but some, like Dr. Douglas Dietrich, are more intimately familiar with the disease they treat. In this special segment, he sits down with one of his patients. Together, they discuss their shared journey.
Hi, Lee. Good to see you.
Hi, sweet. Always lovely seeing you.
Yes.
I wouldn't be seeing anyone if it weren't for you.
Oh, I don't know. Somebody could have fixed you.
I don't think so.
Yeah, it was a rough time.
It was a rough time. But it's all good now.
Yes.
I remember going to the first doctor that I saw in Los Angeles, who made me feel like I was going to die. That like there was a 50% chance that I was going to die. It was a very, very, very traumatic time, mostly because I was worried I wouldn't see my child grow up, because I really knew little about it, and at this point there was no cure. So what made you start treating patients diagnosed with hepatitis C?
Oh, that's easy. I got it myself. Well, I stuck myself with a needle when I was a medical student, and I got real sick, actually. It was pretty ugly.
Oh, wow.
I was bright yellow. And then I finally got treated twice, both for 18 months. First time didn't work. And then the second time I was cured. So I've been cured now for almost 20 years.
So when I met you, I thought to myself, this is the only guy I'm going to put my life in charge of. I must have seen 6 other doctors, and they were all old farts.
Well, thanks. I feel special.
No, you are special. You're the most special person. You're just the most fantastic doctor. All your patients adore you.
You feel better after you're cured?
I felt fantastic. I just got fat, that's all. Because previously I wasn't allowed to drink, and then as soon as I was cured, I was like, yay! It's just like a celebratory explosion.
In moments of doubt and adversity, how do you pick yourself up?
I believe that you have to use your pain. That's what it's for. Become bigger than yourself. And that's when I realized this is going to be my life. And I decided to create Keep a Child Alive to provide antiretroviral drugs to children and families in Africa. Keep a Child Alive has managed to save over 2 million lives. No, me, it's my turn, babe.
Oh, okay, sorry. That's what I have too.
Would you like to marry me?
I'd love to, but I think my wife would object.
Oh, that's upsetting. No, what would you like to ask me?
Now that you're cured, how has it changed your life? What do you want to do with the rest of your life?
The problem with hepatitis C, in the same way as HIV, is that you just don't have symptoms often until it's too late. And then when it's too late, you really are in trouble because you can't live without a liver.
The take-home message is it's easy to get tested, it's easy to get treated, and it's even easier to get cured. Yeah, this is easy.
This was the great, great difficult cure that now can be cured. So that's the thing. I'd like to advocate much, much more for it.
Okay, good. We'll take you up on that.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
Thank you for watching Mount Sinai Future You. We'll have more innovations in healthcare in our next episode.